Welcome to part 9, Plotly Summary. So Plotly is a great tool for creating interactive data visualizations for the web. I presented 3 main steps for creating a visualization. So number 1 is create the figure with geo.figure or make subplots. So geo is the graph objects module that's been imported and aliased as geo. Make subplots makes a grid of plots but returns a single figure object. Number 2 is to add the trace to the plot with fig.add underscore and then the name of the trace. And then number 3 is to update the layout with fig.update underscore layout, or in some cases fig.update underscore some other name over here. Okay, so traces in Plotly terminology, a trace is a kind of plot like a scatter, a bar plot, or a choropleth. You can see the traces on the reference page on the left hand side of the page. So if you go over here, all the traces are on the left hand side, and you just find the trace you want to use and you click on it, and then you can read the documentation on how it's used. So another way to find the documentation is just to press Shift Tab after you found the trace you want with add underscore name of trace. So bring down that drop down menu. Of course, you can add as many traces as you want to one figure. Now the layout is where properties such as height, width, title, the axes, legend, annotations are set. In this tutorial, we showed that we used the method update underscore layout to set the properties. One big issue with update underscore layout is that when you press Shift Tab, you do not see any of the properties. So to discover the properties, you can actually do fig.layout and then press Tab, and that will discover the properties for you. And then you can, once you find the property, you press Shift Tab and actually look at them. Some of them are nested, so you have to set them with a dictionary when you use the update underscore layout method. All right, so subplots. This is when you want to create many plots in a single figure. You just simply use the make subplots function, setting the rows and columns. Now, after you created a figure with subplots, you add a trace to a specific subplot using the row and col parameters in that add underscore trace method. Now, one thing when you have multiple plots is that the update layout changes properties to the entire figure, to all of the subplots, and this is where the update underscore other method comes in, where they do have the row and col parameters to specify a specific subplot. Now, finally, we looked at choropleth maps, which are colored polygons. In our case, the polygons are countries and states, and use the add choropleth method. And then to change some of the other parameters, you do so in update layout with the geo parameter. We talked about how you need to get the locations, either the 3-letter ISO codes or the 2-letter abbreviations for the US states. When you use US states, you need to change the location mode. You can set the projection, and then we also played around with setting bounds for the latitude and longitude. And if you do choose the USA, Albers USA is good because it moves Alaska and Hawaii closer to the other states. Okay, so that is the summary of what we did in Plotly. There is much more to Plotly, but the purpose of this chapter was really to provide a simple and straightforward approach to using Plotly for our project. But it still should give you the fundamentals for creating figures, adding traces, and updating the layout. That is, the vast majority of cases you can kind of figure out just by using those 3 steps. So there is more to the library. You can check it out in the documentation. One thing that I would suggest to check out is this Plotly Express library, which is a library to make plots a little bit simpler. We couldn't use it for our project because it was a little bit too simple and didn't provide us enough flexibility, but many plots can be made with Plotly Express. And if you're familiar with the Seaborn library in Python, then should understand it quite quickly. It automatically groups and aggregates values without you having to do it yourself. One suggestion is not to go too deep into Plotly now. Even if you really like the library, I would say finish the course first. You can get lost going a little bit too deeply into Plotly. You can always come back to it when you have time, but just in terms of finishing the course, it's probably best to continue on and just use the knowledge that you have. Okay, so that is a summary of Plotly.